Morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to do a Garden of Wisdom haul and review. I have got 5 products. I was actually only going to do 4, but I then ordered the Niacinamide serum. This is just a first impressions review of all of these. I have been using the serums both separately and together to see how they layer, etc. But I'm often asked, how can I talk about how the serums and creams etc that I use work when I'm using so many different things, and most recently I was asked about that in an empties, and I do sometimes do a review in terms of the efficacy and how it's worked on my skin, and when I do that I sort of tend to put everything else aside and just use that, take pictures, use it for 3 months, 6 months, and then take, you know, before and after pictures and do a dedicated review. I don't do that very often though. My reviews I try to do a little bit differently, mostly because I think that although I could do a review like that, I think all of our skin reacts differently to different things, and it may work for me but it might not work for you. But also I tend to think that skincare works together. And the information that I like to give you is, what are the ingredients? Is there anything in there that is harmful to you or not great for certain skin types? What is the research or evidence behind the active product that you're using? And how does it actually feel? How does it smell? What is the price? You know, I'm trying to give you a sort of factual profile of the product. So, but this is a first impressions review anyway. So let's get into it. Garden of Wisdom, I bought all of my products on Victoria Health. I've been using the Victoria Health website for years and years and years. I can't even think, probably 15 years. I mean, I don't even know. I remember I went to a nutritionist and got some kind of essence, and that's where I ordered it from Victoria Health. So I've been using it for many, many years, happy with the website and really happy with all of my all of the ordering process. I got the things in separate packages, but yeah, it was all went through smoothly. So I am going to be comparing a little bit to The Ordinary, just so that it gives you a comparison on prices. And the first thing I would compare is the packaging. The only thing that isn't in the same packaging as the rest of the things from Garden of Wisdom is the vitamin C. This is the vitamin C packaging. It's still in a pump, and I do like the packaging, and it's still in a dark packaging, but everything else is in a smaller plastic packaging, soft packaging. This one is in a hard shelled plastic packaging. I'm not sure why that one is different, but I really like the packaging of this, much better than the dropper glass bottles from The Ordinary. That's the first thing I would say, that I really like this packaging. So the first thing we'll talk about is the Niacinamide, which is the last product I ordered. I had to stop because I've become a bit addicted to skincare. I suppose I'm sort of replacing that with makeup, because I've definitely got enough makeup, and there's many more things I could buy from Garden of Wisdom, and probably will. But yeah, I had to stop myself. But I bought this. This one was £9, and I think they're all 30ml. Yeah, 30ml. I've got my notes just here in case you wondered what I'm looking at. This one is nearly double the price of The Ordinary one. The Ordinary one is £5 and this one is £9, like I said. They look very similar. This is a very thin, transparent serum. This one feels a little bit more silky than The Ordinary one. The Ordinary one feels a little bit more watery in my opinion, but this one feels a little bit more silky going on. It just feels a little bit more, it feels a little bit more £9. It dries very quickly. That's it rubbed in already and starting to feel a little bit tacky, and then now it's getting harder to, you know, rub in, and it's starting to feel like it's already dry. So very quickly absorbed. You only need a tiny bit. I don't know whether you saw that I only had, you don't need to depress the pump right the way down. You only need a very small amount of this to cover your face and neck. That's it, completely dry and not now tacky. Really nice ingredients in this, some lovely luxury sounding ingredients in this, such as pantothenic acid, so it's got B5 in it, which is nice. That's a nice soothing ingredient. Avocado biofermentation, which is nice. Sunflower seed extract, aspen bark extract, which is nice. This niacinamide is 5%, whereas the ordinary one is 10%, which might be something of interest to you. So the ordinary one is stronger. It has zinc in it. But I would say this one feels a bit more of a sophisticated product. So far so good. And the big issue for me with most of the niacinamides I've had is that it balls up on my skin, and I thought that was down to it having hyaluronic acid in it, which this doesn't. However, this does ball up for me if I use oil with my routine, and to be honest, I use oil in my routine every evening at the moment because of my skin being so dry. However, my skin is dry because of my use of tretinoin, and my use of tretinoin is going to change, or has changed drastically, and I need to do a new video updating you on the change that is caused by you guys, and that may mean that I don't use an oil so much in future. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of my use of this in the future, because at the moment using it with an oil causes it to ball up, and that I find that really frustrating, because I feel like it's a waste of skincare, because I put it on, put my oil on, and then it's just, I feel like I'm just rubbing it all off again, you know. But that aside, I absolutely love it. Next is the Retinol 1% serum. This is £9. The ordinary 0.5% retinol in squalane is £5, £4.90. So again, this is nearly double the price. This is not actually 1% though, this is 0.5%. This is a 1% Retistar is their complex, and Retistar is a 0.5% concentration of retinol. It is a stable concentration, which is great because it has castor oil in it and vitamin E, and that is the Retistar complex, so it's 0.5% retinol. It has a really weird sort of dusty smell, but it feels lovely going on. It feels really, really lovely. It feels very hydrating, and I guess that's the castor oil and the vitamin E. You could almost go without putting on a moisturiser afterwards. I haven't had any extra dryness, any peeling, flaking, nothing like that at all. It's a real pleasure to use if you don't mind the dusty smell. Yeah, no issues with this whatsoever. I think £9 a really good price for it. I prefer this to any of the ordinary retinol products because I don't like squalane, and if you don't want to use an oil product, you don't have much choice with the ordinary, because the only products they then have is the hydroxypinaclone retinoate, the HPR, and that is a novel retinoid, i.e. an unproven product, whereas this is a retinol, which is a proven product. And so I would be happy to use this again. This is something that I can see me repurchasing. I like this. I like my La Roche-Posay retinol. I like the Paula's Choice retinol, but this one, I think this is a really, really good product. So I would be happy to use that again. Okay, next is the anti-aging multi-peptide serum. This is £20 compared with, it's difficult to compare like for like this with the ordinary, because they've got the Matrixyl, the Buffet and Copper, they're all peptide serums. So they've got anything from £10 to £30. So you can be a bit more picky with the ordinary, whereas they really only have this mixed one at £20. I personally think that this is too expensive. I can tell you now, I won't repurchase this. That's what it looks like. It's very similar to any of the peptides from the ordinary. So it's very similar to the Matrixyl or the Buffet, not so much like the Buffet and Copper. This, I don't believe, has any copper peptides in it. It's more of a Matrixyl mix, and it's got a new peptide in it, tripeptide, I think. It's very nice. It dries quickly, it layers well with other things, it mixes well with other things, and it's got some new technology in it. I don't have anything massive to say about this other than peptide research is still ongoing, and peptide peptides are not something I'm particularly excited about because there's a lot of buzz around it, but I've yet to see any evidence that isn't by companies that are selling peptides. You know, like there was that number 7 injection thing that looked like an injection, but people that have since used it don't seem to have had amazing results. It's then just, it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing with peptides. It's the next peptide and the next peptide, but there's still not any research. I mean, I have to say, where I've put that on, my hand feels beautifully smooth, but that's not what it's claiming to do. It's claiming to be very anti-aging, and the research may prove that it's amazingly anti-aging, and I don't think it would be a bad thing to include in your regime. Definitely not. And if money were no issues, yeah, you know, if money were no object, I would definitely include something like this in it, because like I said, it's not a bad thing. It feels lovely. It's a real smoothing feeling, but it's just not an essential for me. And I think that £20, if this is a budget skincare line, £20 is not a budget price for a small bottle like this. So yes, that's not a repurchase for me. Okay, next is the Prickly Pear Seed Oil. This one is also £20, compared with the ordinary oils are around about the £5 mark. Some of them are a bit more expensive, but you can get a really good oil from the ordinary for £5, maximum £10. And so again, this is about double the price of an oil from the ordinary. But this does have vitamin K, a high level of vitamin K in it. It has high levels of other things, such as it has high levels of particular fatty acids, and it has high levels of vitamin E, but there are other oils that have high levels of those things. But the standout in this oil from my research so far is that it has vitamin K in it, which is thought to be good for dark circles and pigmentation. But again, I can't find any research on that. That is just, it's thought to be good for. There isn't any research that I can see that shows that vitamin K works on pigmentation or dark circles. This smells very, very dusty, even more dusty than the retinol. It's quite a strong smell when you're putting it on. And I think that putting an oil on is quite a, to me, it's the sort of luxury step of your routine. I mean, the whole skincare routine is a real, for me personally, it's the only, one of the only bits of me time that I have, and it is, I want it to be really luxurious and enjoyable, and part of that is the scent. Somebody commented that they don't really care whether the things smell nice or not, and it is a really individual thing, isn't it? Some people just want something that is perhaps good for their skin and they don't care if it smells good or not. To me, it is really important if something smells bad. If I can't abide the smell, I'm not going to use it. But this wasn't a deal breaker that it smelled dusty, because I don't mind, it smells earthy and I don't mind that too much. But it's, I think for £20 it would bother me. I don't know that I would repurchase it because of that, if that makes any sense. Especially when there are other oils from the ordinary that feel beautiful on the skin that I don't notice any scent from, such as borage oil or sea buckthorn oil. All of that said, my skin does feel amazingly soft when I use this. But my struggle has been that most of the time I've been using this, I've been using it with one of the other serums, and I'm going to talk about the vitamin C in a moment, but the vitamin C or the niacin, and I think maybe even that peptide, and it balls up, and so it's not made it quite as enjoyable. But once I've got all the kind of balling up off, my skin has felt amazingly soft. So I think it is a really nice oil. It just doesn't smell very pleasant, and I just think it's too expensive. I think it's too expensive for what it is, and I understand that it is an expensive oil. It's one of those things, when you look into it, it is an expensive product. Prickly pear is an expensive product to get oil from, and it has this vitamin K in it, which is an expensive thing. So I understand why it's expensive, but to me there isn't any benefit in spending that money. I'm not getting any benefit from spending that amount of money on an oil. I hope that makes sense. Like if it was rosehip, for example, I wouldn't mind spending the money because there's a chance that I would get some retinoid action from it. But with this, yes, I might get some vitamin K, but from what I can see, there isn't any proof that that does anything. So I'm not really getting anything other than nourished skin. So for me, this is probably not a repurchase. Yeah, nothing else to say on that one. Okay, finally, probably the one that most people are interested in is the vitamin C 23% with ferulic acid. So this one is £10 compared to the ordinary vitamin C 23%. So they're both 23%. Theirs is 20, the ordinary is 20. My goodness, get your words together. The ordinary is £5, this one is £10. So this one is double the price. But I think it's worth it for being double the price because this one feels better on the skin. The packaging is much, much better, of course, because this one is in a pump bottle. I like the vitamin C 30% from the ordinary, as you know, in silicone. But I know that a lot of people don't like that one because it's in silicone. But also because it's in silicone, it won't penetrate as easily. The vitamin C 23% from the ordinary will penetrate better, but I couldn't stand it on my skin. It was just felt like it was burning. I had to wash it off every time I used it. But this one simply tingles, and that's all it does. It's just a very, very light tingle for a moment and then it's gone. The pH is 3.1 to 3.4, which I've tested, and it comes out about that, and that's a really good pH. You don't want it any lower than that, otherwise it would irritate it. You don't want it any higher than that, otherwise it wouldn't penetrate. Great packaging. I don't know why it's different packaging to that. I'm sure there's a reason. Really, really good formula. I highly recommend this. It's the best, it is the best vitamin C that I have used thus far. In terms of the one that I think, let me think, the one that is a drugstore price that is likely to work, because this is £10. The one that I think is the most likely to be effective is the ethylated ascorbic acid by the ordinary, but that one is £18 for 30ml. This one is £10 for 30ml. The ordinary vitamin C, the ascorbic acid 23%, is £5, but that one is irritating. This one is exactly the same, as in it's 23%, but it's not irritating and it's £10. So if I could afford it, I would use the ethylated ascorbic acid, but this one is a much better value for money, and I think this one will work. I still do think that you should use this one at night. I think that if you could afford it, use the ethylated ascorbic acid, because it's less likely to degrade in UV light. But if not, use this one, but use it at night, because it is still going to be susceptible to, you know, degrade in light and heat, etc. So I do think this is a really, really good product. However, it does still pill if I use it with oil. It does still ball up for me. Other people have said it doesn't, but it's weird. You put it on and it dries. It's almost like putting on a mask. It dries to a sort of stiff feeling, and it's got an odd shine to it, and you sort of can feel it. You do need to put a moisturizer on top of it. You know, I like using it in the day. Actually, I've tried it both ways. I used it and then put my SPF on top, and it feels nice. But if I use it at night and then put my oil on top of it, it doesn't ball up actually on my face. It's mostly like at the edges of where I've put it on. It's not in the middle of it. It's mostly like on my neck and sort of at the edges. So it's not too much of a put off. And I think I will probably use it morning and night, just to try and make sure that I'm getting it through, if you like, you know. And I'll use my ethyl vitamin C. I'll definitely use that up. I'll probably use that one in the morning until it's used up, use this one in the evening, and then maybe just repurchase this one. But yes, definitely a winner, this one. So that's everything really. My standouts then are the vitamin C and retinol. These two would 100% be repurchases for me. They are both my standouts. And the other three, they're not fails. None of them are really fails for me, because I think, well, the niacinamide may be a fail, depends on if I need to use an oil in my routine or not, but I'd still recommend it for you if either the balling up doesn't happen for you, or it doesn't bother you, or you don't need an oil. The peptide if you want a peptide in your routine, this would be a good one. And the prickly pear, if it's something that you want to use in your routine, it is a nice oil to use. It's just, like I said, I think it's a bit expensive for what it is. So nothing in that I've tried so far is a fail. It's just, for me, perhaps not a repurchase. And like I said, the standouts are the vitamin C and the retinol. So I would love to know what you have tried and enjoyed. I would perhaps like to try the azelaic acid. I'm just not 100% sure that I have a need for it. I have had a few breakouts and wished I had it, but I'm now also hoping I get no more breakouts, because unless I do, yeah, I'm not sure where I would fit that into my routine. But I don't know, I can see me purchasing more things from them. I'm always being asked to buy things from different brands, but there's so many brands you guys have asked me to buy from, and I'm not sure, because I've got a lot of skincare and, you know, I've got a lot of things to use up. So I have listed them all. I always do put them on a list, and if I run out of something, then I'll definitely will consider it. I'll list all of my makeup in the description for you. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will speak